Hey everyone, my name is Dillon Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director for GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast. And I am thrilled to be here once again for another installment of Exploring the Warner Archive. Now, anyone who has watched the series before will know that the Warner Archive is one of my all-time favorite labels. I pretty much think they can do no wrong, but they are one of the best in the game. They put so much care into every single release that I just want to spotlight anything and everything that I can. So I do a little bit of something new, a little bit of something old, just whatever I'm feeling on the particular episode. And this particular episode has a lot of great things in store. And I also lean a little bit more heavy on new stuff this episode because I have almost the entire January slate that I want to talk about before digging into some old favorites. But I'm just going to start with that really quick and just dig right into one that I saw a lot of people excited about whenever this was announced. This is the William Keighley adaptation of Mark Twain's The Prince and the Pauper with Errol Flynn. Now, I know Errol Flynn has a lot of fans. He was a huge star back in the day, and his allure remains the same to this day. And this adaptation, for those who don't know the story, it is about two young boys. One, the king of, I believe it's King Edward VI, and one is a peasant boy who they cross each other's path in the castle one day through circumstances, and then they learn that they bear a striking resemblance to one another, and they decide that they are, for fun, they're going to play a little bit game of dress up and try on each other's identities and lives and clothing and stuff. So the prince dresses as the beggar boy dresses as a prince, and they're having a good time until the beggar boy, or till the disguised prince gets kicked out of the castle, and the beggar boy is left impersonating the prince. He tries to clear things up, and the only person who will believe him is this really duplicitous character played by Claude Rains. And then it just so happens that the king dies while this switch has happened, and it kind of leads to this whole plot where people are trying to get rid of one of the real king, who is disguised as the peasant boy, and trying to control the peasant boy who is now in the castle. And it's just all kinds of misunderstandings and duplicity, and it's a really interesting story that's told very well. It is actually the best adaptation. This one particular adaptation is the best one that I've seen to date. Errol Flynn plays a character who is actually trying to do good and help. Once he does figure out what is actually happening, believes it, he is trying to help clear up the confusion and get everyone safe and everything, and take down the bad guys. It is kind of a swashbuckling tale. It's just there's a little bit of adventure, a little bit of intrigue, some comedy, just from like the entitled prince getting a taste of the real world, and then also the vice versa, just like a beggar boy who's never experienced anything nice being waited on hand and foot, and having all these things within the castle that he's never been exposed to. And it's just done very well. It's told even at an hour and 58 minutes. It never feels overly long. It moves along at a good pace. The performances are great. The action set pieces are good, and it feel good while also being dramatic. It's just a really good adaptation. I really liked it. And so this comes from a 4K scan of the original camera negative, and it looks pristine. It looks amazing. It's a great presentation. Sounds really good, even with its age. There's not any like dropouts or pops or anything like that. It's just a really consistent release. In terms of special features, there are 3 Merry Melodies shorts, so 3 animated shorts that are pretty fun and restored in HD, so these look very nice. And then there's a trailer. So anyone who's been waiting for this, it has been treated well, so I highly recommend it. Speaking of a highly anticipated title, this is a historic title for many reasons. This is the musical adaptation of Cabin in the Sky, and this is maybe most notable for being the directorial debut of Vincente Minnelli. And anyone who's familiar with the Warner Archive knows that he probably has like 40 movies in the Warner Archive. He was a very prolific director. He was married to Judy Garland, and they made a lot of movies together as well. But Cabin in the Sky was his directorial debut, and this one is notable also for having, I believe it's an entirely African American cast. And while this does open up with a warning about some of the depictions of African Americans at this time, and it just kind of gives a content warning. There is there's understandably why that is there, but there's also a lot of really good portrayals, and like this is comes from a historic place where this is a very forward-looking film of having a cast of entirely African Americans. And I got a lot of context for this recently, listening to an episode of You Must Remember This, who was where Karina Longworth was talking about the career of Lena Horne and her role specifically in this movie, and kind of where it fell in her career and how it influenced her. So I was very excited to check this one out. And this is a really good musical. It's not overly ambitious. It's basically the tug between heaven and hell whenever a man, he's kind of like on the brink of death, and he's been lived kind of an iffy life, but his wife, who is kind of a pious woman, is kind of fighting for his soul. So there are these angels and demons personified who are kind of trying to fight for whether he should be in heaven or hell, and giving him a second chance, but not knowing what is going on as part of the deal, and like him being tempted by the devil, or being kept on the righteous path. All with some great musical tunes kind of mixed within it. It works very well. It's a really good musical. There's some really funny moments. There's some really heartfelt moments. There's some really great music throughout. Not overly ambitious staging at this point for Minnelli, but what musical numbers they do are really, really good. And especially Lena Horne's numbers are very memorable. She plays kind of a character who's like the bad girl, the temptress, but she plays it very well. And so Cabin in the Sky, while there are some dated elements, and you should view this in the context that it was made, it is still a very good and in some ways very progressive film for the time. So definitely worth checking out. This comes from a 4K restoration of the best surviving preservation elements. So that usually means that the original camera negative, maybe there were some issues with that. They may have used some of that for this, or maybe an inner positive, just because of some damage that may have been lingering. But with Warner Archive specifically, they always they will make you believe that it is the original camera negative. It is not, because they do such great work, and this is no different. I did not notice any egregious density fluctuations, or there's no damage. I did not notice any sudden dips in quality. This is a pretty consistent presentation, so they have treated this one with the utmost respect. And the sound is great with these musical tunes. You don't want anything like shrill notes or anything like that. It all sounds consistent and great. In terms of special feature, there's an archival audio commentary that was from the original DVD release that is provided over a standard definition version of the movie. And there's some good insight into that. And then there's also some it's a film historian and also some people who were involved with the production. There's also a live action short. I believe it's a Pete Smith specialty, and which they are a common occurrence on certain Warner Archive discs, and they're pretty amusing. There's also an audio outtake with Louis Armstrong that was not used in the film, but it sounds great, and there's a trailer. So, Cabin in the Sky, really great release. I know fans are always clamoring for pre-code films, so Warner Archive delivered on that front this month with Faithless, with Tallulah Bankhead. And this is a classic tale of coming to terms with what is important in life. Tallulah, she plays a wealthy heiress who she's thinking about getting married to a man who merely makes $20,000 a year, which doesn't really jive with her. She wants him to he doesn't want to take any of her money, and she wants to keep living the high life. and she decides not to go through with the marriage, but then ultimately she loses her money in the depression, and it kind of, instead of going with love, she decides to shack up with another dude who does not treat her very well. So it is a journey for her of learning what is important in life, not to stick with men who are like abusive and abuse her. Maybe love is more important than money, but she has to come to terms with that. And there's a lot I really like about this movie, especially the ending where the character makes certain choices where normally women would have been shamed for certain things, and characters do try to do that, but ultimately she is not shamed and she is embraced for what she for who she is, rather than what she has had to do or has chosen to do. And I really like that. So, Faithless, it's a really good pre-code drama. Pushes the envelope a little bit. Nothing like that would shock probably modern audiences, but it's pushes the envelope more than a lot of older Golden Age movies once the Hays Code was implemented. This comes also from a 4K restoration of the best preservation elements. Looks very nice, even like in the early 1930s, with this being this old, still looks very nice and consistent. No density fluctuations, anything like that. Really good. There are 3 Bitaphone shorts that all are pretty entertaining. Mostly are singing, dancing numbers, or kind of little odd numbers here and there, but little. Or actually 2 of them are actually kind of heist shorts that are about 20 minutes long. So those are pretty entertaining. I was mixing up with another disc. And all 3 are, they're not restored in HD, but they look pretty nice. So Faithless, it's a really good disc. Something completely different, which I love when Warner Archive spans the decades. This one is a 90s comedy that I had always wanted to see because I would always see it in our local rental store. This is Joe's Apartment with Jerry O'Connell. Okay, I'll just come out right out and say it. This is not a good movie, but I was glad that I finally got to see it just for myself. This is an MTV production, which those are normally with Paramount. This was a special deal with Geffen to be put this out through Warner Brothers. There are things I like about it. What this is, Jerry O'Connell plays a transplant to New York who he has basically no money, so he ends up faking his way into living into this really shabby apartment that are infested with roaches that can talk, and they're these kind of gangster-ish men who are trying to force him out of this rent-controlled apartment so they can jack up the price and make a lot of money. But Joe happens to be the type of person who will get along kind of with some roaches because he kind of lives a slovenly life, and they kind of come to a mutual respect, but they are kind of chaotic. And this is a dark comedy that doesn't really hit hard enough on the comedy. There's amusing moments here and there, but overall most of the comedy for me misses the mark, and I was really hoping that I would get more from it. I enjoyed it a little bit. There's some musical moments with the roaches, and there's some silly dark humor of just like as soon as Jerry O'Connell gets in like off the bus, he gets robbed like 5 times in rapid succession. It's ridiculous, but overall the comedy wasn't really hitting with me, and I wish it would have. But anyone who loves this film, it's been treated with more respect than any other label probably would. It's been given a 4K scan of the original camera negative, and it looks flawless. It is amazing. It is one of the best that I've seen in a while, and this sounds really great. Big 5.1 sound immerses the room. It's fantastic. And this has a couple of animated shorts. One's a classic Merry Melody short that appropriately involves some roaches, and then 2 are more modern 90s Looney Tunes shorts that are pretty cool, and they're all in HD and they look fantastic. This does not include the original MTV Joe's Apartment short because that is still owned by MTV and Paramount, so that wasn't able to be included on the disc, but the other shorts that they are included are pretty cool. So Joe's Apartment is a really great disc for a movie I did not particularly like, but I love exploring the Warner Archive and all of its quality, and it is one that I always wanted to see, so I'm glad it got a release. Okay, now another 90s film that probably it will get a very mixed reaction, but I was thrilled that this was finally coming to Blu-ray because I had all these nostalgic memories of it. This is an animated feature called Rover Dangerfield. Yes, Rover Dangerfield, because there is nothing that kids love more than the comedic stylings of Rodney Dangerfield in animated dog form. So this is a wild movie. More than just like that premise of just like take Rodney Dangerfield's personality, put him into a dog who is kind of grown up in Vegas and kind of like has a relation not like a romantic but like has a friendship with a showgirl, and he ends up like witnessing almost a near murder and he gets kind of like accidentally, or he gets left, he is almost murdered, but he escapes to a farm, and he's like a city dog living on a farm, and there's all kinds of misunderstandings, and there's a chicken with boobs, and there's all kinds of things going on with this film that okay, this comes from the team that brought us The Brave Little Toaster, which I love, but anyone who's seen that knows that it's pretty unhinged and dark. There's kind of that sensibility here. It was originally intended to be an R-rated film, but they made it a G-rated film, so there's a lot of tonal whiplash for some of these jokes where you can kind of see the adult nature of it, but then there's also still a kids movie. But I appreciate the insane ambition of this movie, and just most will not like this, but there's a part of me that did enjoy watching this for like nostalgia's sake. If you've never seen this before or have no familiarity with it, I would not recommend a blind buy for this, even though the presentation's fantastic. It's just such a wild movie. Your mileage will definitely vary, but I recommend it just for kind of like the what the hell's going on factor of it. And this is a fantastic release. This comes from a new 2023 HD master that you can tell that there's been a lot of care put into this. There are still some fleeting moments of softness, which I would chalk up to problems with the original source. I've noticed this with certain restorations with things like Fern Gully, where certain animation styles, like you would just have softness to certain frames where maybe you wouldn't have expected audiences to like maybe pay close attention, like frame by frame. So any softness that is very intermittently in this, I would chalk up to probably the source material, because this looks really great overall. Rich, vibrant colors. This sounds great. DTS 2.0 audio comes through very clearly. There's several musical numbers throughout, so you want like rich sound, and it is really great. This does come with a host of animated shorts. There are 2 Merry Melody shorts, both dog themed, that are very entertaining and restored in HD. So I've been loving all of the animation that they've been trying to put out recently with like Cats Don't Dance and Hey There, It's Yogi Bear. So Rover Dangerfield is another example of that. And this was just announced, but in February, Warner Archive will be putting out a 10-film animated set from Hanna-Barbera, which is thrilling. It's one of my most anticipated releases of the year, probably. So I will be thrilled to cover that in a future installment, but that's just a tease for whenever you see this. Go pre-order that, because it's going to be amazing, and I thank Warner Archive for everything they do. But I love that they're supporting animation in all its form and quality levels. So excited about that. So that rounds out my January slate. But as you know, I like to represent all eras of Warner Archive and just everything they have to offer. So I'm going to dig in a little bit deeper to some of their older titles. And as just an example of something that the Warner Archive offers that you might not expect, I'm going to some modern television, modern-ish, a few years old. And this is their picking up the slack from Warner Home Video and releasing seasons 3 and 4 of the originals, it was a CW series that ended a few years back, which for those who don't know, is a spin-off of the Vampire Diaries. I recently rewatched, went through watching The Vampire Diaries with my wife. We rewatched it. She had never seen it before, so I wanted to show that with her. And that got me in the mood to finally catch up with the original. So I had the first 2 seasons on Blu-ray from Warner Home Video. They stopped releasing it, but then Warner Archive picked it up for the 3rd and 4th season. Now, we're still missing the 5th season, and I do hope that one day that Warner Archive does make my dreams come true and finish out the series just with one more season set. That's all we need. But until then, I'm still glad that we have what we have. So, just very briefly, the originals follows the Michelson clan, who are Klaus Michelson was where they were all the original vampires, and Klaus Michelson is a hybrid vampire werewolf, and this is all kind of complicated lore. But for anyone who has seen this kind of vampire series like lineage, they'll know kind of what I'm talking about. And these 2 seasons are honestly where this show really starts settling into itself. The first 2 seasons are good, but that is kind of trying to finding its identity after spinning off from the Vampire Diaries, and there's a lot of lore building, and you're settling into New Orleans and learning all about witches and werewolves and all these characters. And the 3rd season, this is where things really come together. There's like some prophecies that come forth, and the characters are really in peril, and things get a little bit more violent in the 3rd season, and then there are characters, like huge character losses, all leading up to a very thrilling finale, where the 4th season, there's a pretty significant time jump. You see certain characters grow up, and you have to see where some characters are after kind of the surprising ending of the 3rd season, and you really get a very strong 4th season where you're getting a lot of backstory on certain characters that were previously lacking a little bit of development in the previous season just because of their age, and you're getting learned a lot more about these characters and where they are. And the 4th season really leaves stuff off on an interesting note, where if you will be wanting to watch the 5th season, which makes it such a crime that it is not on Blu-ray, because it is also like a big upheaval. But the 3rd and 4th season of the originals, they are really fun and good if you like kind of that soapy teen-ish CW type show, which I do really like. I have The Flash here. I watch a lot of CW, and it's not always great television, but it is better than I think many would probably think it is. There's a lot of mature storytelling in here, and storytelling and legacy building that's like builds upon each season. And I really like the mythos that was created with this series. So hoping for they eventually finish off the 5th season. Hey, maybe if enough people like chime in the comments, maybe maybe it'll get Warner Archive's attention. They'll be like, hey, we'll finally finish it off. But either way, I'm glad that they released these. So the 3rd season was 22 episodes on 5 discs. And then the 4th season was 13 episodes on 3 discs. So there's a good amount of room for these episodes to breathe. These all look fantastic in high definition, 5.1 audio. This is pretty consistent across the run. Each of these seasons has a good number of deleted scenes, a gag reel, a why to film in Georgia PSA, which are interesting and fun. And they each have Comic-Con panels, which are pretty significant, almost 30 minutes each season. Just like getting insights into the season from the cast and creative team. It's just a really great addition. So if you're a fan of the series, pick both of these up and continue on your collection that you probably started with the Warner Home Video releases of the first 2 seasons. Going a little bit further back, going into, I believe, the 80s, if not the 70s, this is a wacky film called The Ice Pirates, which I did not know what to expect from the tone whenever I watched this, and I did not realize it was going to be such like a slapsticky satire type film. But it is. It's like kind of a send up of like a Star Wars or something, or a Mad Max, where there is a limited ice is a limited resource, and there are the people going around trying to like steal it or find it, and these pirates get themselves into all kinds of situations and get some like uh just like they'll find themselves like locked up and like in jail, and they have to get busted out, and just having like standoffs with different people. There's a very memorable turn from Angelica Houston in this, a young Angelica Houston who's a badass like fighter, who she's great in this. But this is a really funny movie mixed with like some sci-fi action-ish, and I think most reviews of this kind of think it's a little bit too stupid, but it hit just on that right level of like absurd comedy that really resonated with me. Maybe it's because it wasn't what I was expecting, that I was just having fun with it, and just like all the jokes, not all the jokes, but most of the jokes landed pretty well with me. And it's just a fun, silly time if you don't go in expecting serious sci-fi. I think you'll have a good amount of fun with it. So, not the best film, but a really good time. The Ice Pirates. I liked it. It's a good brainless watch, I would say. And this does come from a 2K scan of The Inner Positive. I believe this was released around 2017, 2018-ish. And it's, while I think Warner Archive has continued to get even better and better, they were still doing a really good job at this time, and it looks really nice. This only has a theatrical trailer in terms of special features, but it's a really good release for a film that, if you love it, you love it. Maybe check out the trailer, see if it speaks to you, but it's a fun one. So Ice Pirates, I recommend it if you're in for a silly time. My penultimate title is another earlier Warner Archive release, and this is Michael Curtiz's The Sea Wolf, which is a Jack London adaptation. And I just really needed some Edward G. Robinson in my life, and this one did not let me down. Also, love Ida Lupino, so always love seeing her. So this is a tale. Ida Lupino, she plays like a woman who is on the run from the law, and John Garfield, he plays kind of more of a rule follower, buttoned up person who finds himself in a situation where he's on kind of like this ghost pirate ship, not literal ghost, but like a pirate ship led by Edward G. Robinson, who's kind of like a tyrannical leader who he has this power over his crew, but he also has some secrets which you come to learn throughout the telling of this narrative. And there's a good amount of suspense over how our characters are going to fare against this really imposing presence. And Edward G. Robinson completely annihilates the screen. He is such a captivating presence, and he's just so interesting. And even whenever his standing starts to deteriorate near the end of the film, he is still such a formidable like opponent or antagonist that he completely leaves you chilled. And all of the other performances are really good, and especially some of like kind of the like lower tier ensemble. There's a lot of good like small but really good gem performances throughout, and it's thrilling, it's compelling, it's just a really awesome movie, and Michael Curtiz really doesn't miss. So if you're a Michael Curtiz fan, this is fantastic. This is this is a really interesting release for multiple reasons, but this comes from a restoration of the 35mm uncut elements. So for years and years, this was only seen in a very condensed form, because after it was originally released, it got re-released, but at that time it was a common practice to just cut out a bunch of the material so they could run it on a double bill with another feature, and it wouldn't be such a long movie. And for years, that's the only way you could see this, was in this compromised form. But finally, like even on DVD, I believe it's like this. Finally, whenever Warner Archive decided to release this on Blu-ray, they went searching for all the original elements, and they found them, and they restored them back to its former glory, so you get to see this without any unnecessary cuts or anything like that. This is this full movie as it's meant to be seen, and it looks really great. It's a really nice, consistent looking transfer. Even if it's not the original camera negative, it's a very nice transfer. Audio sounds very consistent as well. It's just very solid. And this, in terms of special features, this includes a half-hour radio play version of this the tale, and a theatrical trailer. I love whenever they add these old radio shows. It's a real fun way to kind of like experience a nostalgic take on like how people used to take in performances or more whenever you couldn't like just readily turn on the television. It's a fantastic release from Warner Archive. My final set of titles, it's another TV series, also modern, but this is for my comic book fans. This is the first 3 seasons of Young Justice. So Young Justice, which was just season 1. Season 2, Young Justice Invasion, and then it got canceled for several seasons and then revived as Young Justice Outsiders. This is season 3, which I believe started airing in like 2018, 2019, around there. So this series is honestly one of the best like comic book series I've ever seen. It's just a really solid show. It's up there with like your Justice League Unlimited, Batman the Animated Series, all of like the prime like the original X-Men animated series, all your prime like animated storytelling like shows or superhero shows. This is up there with the best of the best, because there's a lot of like creators that you'll see in some of the DC animated universe film output these days, like Brandon Vietti, overseeing some of all these seasons. So while you do have some of the like your main people like Batman showing up in a limited capacity, the first season especially is about these lesser heroes. So like you have people like Miss Martian, Superboy, Kid Flash, Artemis, Robin, obviously, coming to like actually forming this kind of Justice League offshoot of younger people, Young Justice, and kind of reckoning with that fact. And what I really love about this show is it does take its storytelling and narrative development seriously. There is a time progression, especially like in the second season, especially like Invasion. There's a several year time jump from the first season, and you are reckoning with a lot of what happened in that interim, and the characters have been developing even more. There are new characters who are added to the team. Certain characters are like double cross the team, and that really impacts the narrative as well. And then even in the third season, Outsiders, there's even a more of a time jump, and some of the themes that are tackled throughout here, like human trafficking, is tackled in this in a way. It is like kind of mutant trafficking, but that's what you can kind of get from what they are going for, and they talk about that in the special features of like wanting to tackle real world issues within that without being heavy handed. And there's a lot of great superheroic stuff within this series, and it's just a really fantastic like animation, storytelling, humor. It's really great, and I love this series so much, and I'm glad it's all on Blu-ray from Warner Archive. The 4th season just finished airing, I believe, in 2022, so I still hope that they put that out eventually on Blu-ray. I don't think that is a complete impossibility. I think it'll probably happen eventually, but still waiting on that. But until then, get caught up on these. So the first season has 26 episodes on 2 discs, which did kind of worry me a little bit because that's like 13 episodes per disc, which is a lot on one disc. But I did not notice any nagging compression issues or anything. So that was these 2 discs. So that's the first season. The second season was only 20 episodes, but still 2 discs. So about 10 episodes per disc, and that was a little bit more manageable, but still, once again, kept up the high quality. The third season, they kind of balanced things out a little bit more. There are 26 episodes like the first season, but instead, you get 1, 2, 3, 4 discs instead. So double the disc from the first season with the same amount of episodes. Gives it a little bit more room to breathe. And then you also have on the final disc here even more special features, which the second season also had. The second season had some audio commentaries and some behind the scenes stuff. The third season had a 5-part making up featurette, which usually ran about 10 minutes long each. So it's a pretty substantial thing. The first season did not have any special features, but if you're a fan of the series, these really hit. And Young Justice, it's something you're going to want to own if you're a comic book fan. Like I said, it is one of the better superhero series I've ever seen, and it's just a really fun time. Looks fantastic on Blu-ray. Sounds great. Also, worth mentioning, the first 2 seasons are DTS 2.0 audio, but the third season bumps that up to DTS 5.1, and it's fantastic. But that is me exploring this installment of the Warner Archive, and there's a lot of great stuff, and I hope you found something that you are interested in checking out. But I really appreciate you watching this video. I love doing these for you. If there's something you saw that you wanted, that you liked, let me know. If there's something you want me to talk about in the future, let me know that as well. I'm going to keep doing these as long as I can, and because this is a vast catalog, so much worth exploring. Share this with anyone you think might like it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We have our normal Video Addict series that we do every week, where we talk about new releases, not just Warner Archive, but from all boutiques and major studios, everything like that. And we love doing that, me and my colleague Michael Vaughn. But until next time, until you see me exploring the Warner Archive again, enjoy these movies.